Well, guess we'll see. Push that back. Where's my live chat going? Good morning, ITC. Just adjust a few things here. Probably not. Hey, Rick Fundermark. Nothing too interesting today. Just a case of catching up on jobs that need to be finished up, loose ends, things like that. And still no microscope, of course. Let's see. First thing I gotta do, and I hate doing this, is I've got to put this phone back together. It's got a water damaged main board, so not much I can do at this point. So I'll wait for the microscope to arrive and things like that. But let's see, you come out at all? There, you might be able to sort of see there's fingerprints for some reason there, or at least it looks like it. Water damage here, and there's water damage along here. What it's doing is, I put a new screen in a few days ago, and it now it just boots to a interlaced greeny looking Apple logo and then shuts down. So it's not really looking too hopeful. Up here, again, you can't really see, but there's some, it looks like some sort of milk or something like that. And milk is really not a good thing to have in the phone. Yeah, so I've got to just put all the screws back in it and put it aside for the meantime. Hey, John's touchpad. No, I just hate doing it because it's double work, because I'm going to have to pull it all back apart later anyway. But if I don't do it, I'm going to get the screws mixed up, and then I will, that'll make me sad. Not that I expect to see this return to being a normal working phone as such, but yeah. Want to at least try and have some semblance of, I don't know what I'm saying. Let's try and keep things organised. Okay, what have I got? I don't do enough of these yet, these board pulls, to know the screw orders off by heart. And I need to get myself one of those proper standoff drivers. I can use the flat driver, but yeah, that sort of crap happens. So I use a very light touch, because I've seen what happens when you go in too hard with that. Easy way to knock a lot of parts off. Alright. Hey, Motorman 2112. Just off to bed. Oh well, have a good sleep. It sounds like a minor thing, but being able to get a good night's sleep is something a lot of people can't get. Ah, man. Oh, so you're already off. Ah, that's why that one. Okay. So you're attached there, which means you must be belong over here. I'm still waiting for my Google payment with the all the donations from back in the start of June. It should be here any day. Normally it's around about the 21st of the month, but Google seems to be a little bit slow this month. So we've got 9 people in here. It's very quiet this morning. So everybody doing work or something. Wonder if there's much point putting the camera back in. I suppose I should. Yeah, go on, Paul. Put it back in. Come on. Is there another stream going on somewhere, like Jessa or Lewis? I saw Chris had finished his. Oh, that's right. Jessa had one this morning, and I missed that. I saw it come up on my phone, but I was still paralytic with sleep, the lack of sleep, so I couldn't get out of bed. And then I saw Chris's, and the same thing. I still couldn't get out of bed. Alright. I suppose I better put these down so that I can... Why is this lock switch volumes flex always... The FPC connector is always such a pain to get on. Looks like we'll have to just detach this. It's been a bit of a strange week. Started out really well. A lot of good jobs. Everything just chugging along nicely. And then it sort of all just fell apart yesterday, which wasn't much chop. No jobs turned up, nothing, and um, even my Amazon affiliates page had absolutely 0 hits, which was really unusual. And yeah, everything was just dead. It was like the universe decided, oh, quiet day for you today. But then last night, things got a little bit frighteningly interesting in a bad way. I'll just get this. Oh, for God's sake, I can't get that on. Well, all of a sudden everyone turns up. Hey, Greg. Yeah, waiting on the microscope, Rick. Jessa was on and Lewis has been doing less. I've noticed that because his staff's on vacation. Japan. Okay, thanks for that, Rick. Spanish Wix commercial. Been battling multiple Linux and Win10 installs on a box here. Okay, what are you doing that for, Rick? Yeah, last night, as you all will know by now, I have multiple enclosures here with 8-foot fencing and stuff like that to protect the cats. Oh my goodness, someone's at the door. I'll be back. Alright, sorry about that. That was a customer for the next phone that I'm going to do, so that's going to put the pace up for me. I'll just get this one sorted out. No point stopping this halfway. They're going to give me half hour to put it back together, so it's all good. It's not a working phone. It's a data recovery job. But often what I do is, with the data recovery jobs, I don't really bother to put them back together because I say to the client, so look, it's a dead phone. I guess I'm sort of trying to subtly direct them to the idea of there's no point having your phone back. Leave it here for donor parts. There's no point me. Let's see, put the SIM card in here. Oh, it's not even the right SIM tray. This is for, looks like a 5. Okay, I'm not going to bother putting those cables back on. Oh, as I was saying, yeah, I've got the enclosures for the cats, and we monitor the cats very closely when they're outside. We've got security cameras and whatnot. And last night, one of our cats, Micro, which is the one that's in the picture on YouTube and everything like that, he was on the ground sniffing some stuff, and I thought he had his little teddy toy, his little mousy toy, because he often does that. He'll grab his mouse and go run outside, and then he'll start yowling with his mouse to get us to come outside and play with him. So I said to my wife, I said, "Oh, yeah," I said, "Micro's out the back, he's yowling for us, so let's go out." I couldn't hear the yowling, I just made the assumption. And it turns out it wasn't that. In fact, what it was a dried up dead fish that was out there. And that freaks me out because, well, the only way something gets into the yard is if it's been thrown in or dropped in or whatever. And we've had a unfortunate spate of animals being poisoned in this town. And one way you can poison animals, unfortunately, is you can put cyanide onto things like fish. And then you just throw it to the animal and the animal eats it. And then 5 minutes later they're dead, sort of thing. They unfortunately do this a lot over in Indonesia and places like that to kill dogs, to eat dogs, which is a bit of a risk for humans too. Anyway, cyanide's moderately available in this area because we're a gold mining town, and cyanide is one of the chemicals used in the process of leaching the gold out. Fortunately, nothing happened. The cats are fine. It's a bit of a scare, and I'm trying to decide why that fish had been. And the fish is like this big, so it's a good 20 centimeters. Is it a real mouse? No, it's a little toy mouse. It's a little fluffy, like a little teddy bear type thing. So yeah, I don't know. There's a few people in town who really don't like me for whatever reason. I don't know. I mean, when I first moved here about 15 years ago, and I started dating my wife, before she was my wife, obviously, one of the locals didn't approve of that, and they left me a nice rotting kangaroo carcass on my driveway, and this is in a different house. So right from the start, I've never been the most popular chap in town for those sort of people. So I don't know. When I thought about it later, I realised that a couple of weeks ago there was a smell that I could not find out the side of the house where we found this dead fish. Speaking of which, it had been filleted, and it was so basically it was the head and the skeletal. Uh, so that sort of gave me a little bit of relief knowing that, okay, even though we found it last night, it's probably been there a week or two, because that most likely was what was causing the smell, which means it was thrown in fresh and let to rot, which means it probably, if it was thrown in like that, and in this area, there's no neighbours on that side, it's just open field and a dirt road. So either someone threw it in, trying to do something very unfortunate, or I'm hoping this is actually the case. We had something like a scavenger bird, a kite, as we call them here. It may have been carrying this carcass, and it just happened to drop in this spot. If someone has done it maliciously, then they've come up through the blind spot on where my security cameras are, and just sort of like gently tossed it over the top of the fencing to land where it was. So either as a prank or as malicious, it's quite distressing, and I'm going to have to get a couple more cameras and find out what's going on. So I don't know. It's unfortunately the nature of this town. There's some very nice people here, and it can be a nice town, but there's also some very unnice people here. Yeah, and that's just it. Yeah, it's distressing. Yeah, it drives the anxiety through the roof, obviously. Um, yeah, like I said, fortunately the cats are fine. Uh, but yeah, I'll be very happy to move to a different area, a different town, maybe even. Uh, this area used to be very nice. About 12 years ago, it was very quiet on the road. There was none of this crazy traffic. There was very little foot traffic. No one would be walking around. But now, yeah, that's just the nature of towns growing, I suppose. I better get this other guy's phone fixed. Well, I shouldn't say fixed, it just needs to be put back together. Fortunately, the little magnetic pads do their job. And fortunately, this is not a mainboard removal one, it's just a. Yeah, this has got water damage. I can't even remember what happened here. Doesn't worry me. Yeah, just put it back together and hand it back to the people. So yeah, there's some real sick fuckers around here. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that not everybody likes cats or dogs or whatever. But, and yeah, there's a lot of people that just let their animals roam, which I can understand would cause dramas with the neighbours, and that's fair enough. I think people should be more responsible and keep their pets contained, which is why we've got our big enclosures. But yeah, to go all that way and do those sort of things, like I said, there's been a few occurrences of dogs being baited. Uh, why has this got a full screen disassembly? That's what's throwing me here. If it's a data recovery, I shouldn't have done a full screen. I'll learn to leave better notes for my stuff. The job system that I've got does have that facility. It's not a limitation of the software that I'm using. It's a limitation of the person using the software being a lazy bum. Oh well. Yes. Rick, I think it's not so much that people got screws loose, it's like some of them just don't seem to even have any screws. They're just soulless. But yeah, there's some really weirdos out there. I don't like it. Hey, Mako. Yeah, Rick, that's the other thing is, yeah, the animals are just doing what animals do. And it is frustrating. I mean, I get, when we get other people's cats coming around our yard, passing diseases onto our cats, and twice we've had that happen. We had to, two of our cats we've had to put into the clinic overnight and on fluids and everything like that because they picked up something that another roaming cat had. And yeah, that was like $1,000 each. So it certainly makes an impact. Dogs, especially in this town, it's a dog town because you know, we've got pig hunters. And, yeah, just everybody's very. It's a country town, you know. It's a country where you just let your dog roam around and bite people and attack other animals. And that's the other thing. People sort of go on about how cats kill wildlife, and they do. But they never really seem to think that dogs kill a lot of wildlife too. Around here, possums, lizards, echidnas, wallabies. Yeah, the dogs are killing all that sort of stuff when they can. Chooks, birds, you name it. If they can get it, they'll tear it apart. A lot of it, I think, is the whole masculinity, insecurity, whole you can't like cats. That's a girl thing to do, or yeah, you're a wuss if you do that. You're gay, or yeah, just all those sort of stupid, homophobic insults and nasty stuff. Which personally, I don't. Yeah, people have called me all sorts of things under the sun. That doesn't bother me a bit. Uh, but yeah, if the animals are being contained in a person's yard and they're being responsible about it, and you go out of your way to do such things, then I'll be happy to see you fed feet first into a wood chipper with lots of salt and alcohol thrown in for good measure. I'd much sooner put innocent animals ahead of people in this world. Yeah, you can tell my rage is rising up a bit there. Dog sitting? Sisters isn't. Oh, I do have a homeless cat that comes by to my house to sleep. Oh, that's nice of you, Rick. Yeah, we certainly try to do what we can do. We just found our neighbour. Um, they had 3 cats come up from Melbourne, which is 3,000 k's south of us, and I don't know if the cat type people. I believe they were just holding them until the owner comes up. Anyway, they got out, and this is not a nice area to have your pets get out with. There's a lot of land traps, just all sorts of things around the place. A lot of roaming dogs. Fortunately, after 2 days, we managed to find them all, and my security cameras did the trick because I spotted them roaming around in the dark. Told the owner, they went out, and they were able to call them in and get them. So yeah, another couple of animals saved, thankfully. Anything more than a couple of days, and normal domesticated animals will tend to perish if they're not careful. Fortunately, it's winter here, which means the weather's very mild. I mean, we only got down to, I think it was about 11 degrees centigrade last night, so it's perfectly livable. Yeah, Mako. Yeah, I mean, I can understand people hating cats crapping in their yard and stuff like that. And yeah, there's various diseases sometimes that can be transferred to humans even. But by and large, um, yeah, people who seem to just go out of their way to be cruel, needlessly cruel, as opposed to being responsible. Like the proper thing you should do is find out whose cat it is if you can, and if not, get a cat trap and you know, catch the animal and then hand it over to the council or the pound or whatever. A lot of the time, I think it's just people using their hatred as an excuse to justify their sick desires. Okay. Oh yeah. By the way, we're changing the screen on this 6S. Forgot to mention it only because it's sort of like I was just getting on with the job. Hey TCRS. People have to put stupid labels on. Yeah, Rick, that's right. Yeah. It really does come from insecurity. It's like they rely on hiding behind that sort of thing as sort of a false bravado. You see it all the time. On the local community group on Facebook here. Oh man, it's just everywhere. It's your classic sort of insecure bravado. Resort to violence, resort to all that sort of stuff when you feel threatened, whatnot. Did I lift that? Yep, I did. I was just worried then that I'd left the battery connected, which wouldn't be a good thing. I really don't want to go popping the backlight fuses or filters. Not today, not today. Alright. Does anyone ever put the waterproofing adhesive back on for the 6S? Because I don't. Ah, g'day, PP Henry. Yeah, Cryjo, well, I'm even more than you because I got 3. And Chris Long, well, man, he's got 5, I believe. I do find it interesting that a lot of us in this field do actually have cats, and we're more than happy to declare that we have cats and we love cats, things like that. Okay. Come on, what's the matter? Your magnetism not good enough today? It looks like I'm going off camera there a little bit. Ah, for goodness sake. I've been working on my battery tester as well. I think I'm ready to resubmit the board. But that said, last night I was looking at Twitter and someone on there said, look at my new toy, and they've got this very comprehensive iPhone battery tester complete with, looks like a 320 by 200 type display, everything. And I thought, man, what's the point of me doing mine when that sort of thing already exists? I mean, I enjoy designing things, but I'm not really a big fan of reinventing the wheel too many times. But there is one difference that mine will have compared to theirs, but it's not a major one. All of them that are out there rely on you having the battery removed from the phone, whereas I'm making mine so that you can test it while it's still in the chassis. That's not a big difference, and it's something that they all can do if they just change, add a daughter board or something like that, a couple of fly leads. Get off. There you go. Cats, the pet of discriminating professionals. If we turn that into an advert or something. Yeah, there's certainly a great deal of negativity towards cat ownership if you're a male. But like I said, they can go shove it for all I care. Most of my life I've been on the wrong side of what's popular in that respect, and I'm happy about it. Making a mess of this. Yep, just had to get that tape off the top there. I should keep the screen. It's just cracked, nothing else. Don't pull the home button by the flex, you idiot. There we go. It's an original, because the seal is still there. Good. That over there. Good. Alright, put that aside. Makeout, I did actually. I saw that. I thought it was a pretty cool tree. I was thinking something like that would be quite neat as a bit of a nightlight around here. Right now, I just keep Christmas lights up, just plain white ones. Yeah, we don't bother taking them down, just leave them up and they're night lights in this house. But yeah, I really like the way that you turned it into functional art. Kraja, I think the big problem here is that it's the bad kind of country town. It's the banjo playing country town. So let's hope we don't get to Deliverance around here. Sorry guys, I didn't realise I'm way off screen there. I'm sort of too busy doing my thing here and forgetting that I'm supposed to be entertaining. Speaking of which, I presume most of you have seen that a singer for Linkin Park apparently committed suicide. That was unfortunate. Guess it gets a little bit crazy when you're way up the top on the fame strata. Can't imagine it's a nice life, to be fair. I mean, sure, you're probably rich as anything. There's not much chop when you probably don't really have any true friends, or very few true friends. Wait, let's go under. This gets me every time. Sorry if I'm sounding a bit nasally and whatnot. The air is very dry here. A couple of days ago, I mowed the backyard. It was 3 foot high grass, lots of seeds, and it really took a toll on me. I ended up with a nice, bloody red looking eye, too. Robert, it's been a mixed bag of a week. Mixed bag, as usual. What? They didn't give me any. What? They didn't give me any of the plastic inserts here. That's annoying. Normally, with this particular grade of screen that I order, I always get the plastic inserts for it. No, sorry, not this one. Well, I hope they use that 1/10 of a cent for something good. Right. Yep, there's got a dag there. A dag of glue by the looks of it. Yep, off you get. I'll leave that in there, most likely it will break off and then drift into the camera. That'd be fun. And I'll get the person going, my camera's got a weird thing in front of it. Ah, damn it. Now, I don't know if it's just the fact that I'm soon to get a microscope or what, but I'm getting quite a lot of TriStar failures coming up around here now. Come on, there you go. So I think that's probably going to be the bulk of what I'm doing for the first couple of months. I'll no doubt be looking over all the works done by Chris and Jessa and Jason. See which TriStars are nightmares and which aren't. I believe the iPhone 5 is a little bit of a nightmare because it's underfilled. Anyone in the chat want to tell me the other ones that are underfilled? I'm pretty sure one of the 6s are, aren't they? Yeah, I'll find out, no doubt, as I go into it. I have to work out my pricing as well for that job. It seems to be the average is about 150 here in Australia, basing that on what Ben Duffy down at Geelong Micro Soldering has on his price list. I prefer to stay with what the market already has settled to, if I can. Assuming it's a sane price. If it's an insanely, stupidly cheap price, then I'm not going to do it anyway. Come on, what's going on here? I'm not a big fan of the people who come into a market as a new player and then just slash the price out of everything. It's like, good on you, mate. Just ruin the viability of the market, all because you couldn't think of another way to do things well. Alright, let's get this underway. I mean, I get it. I mean, when I was younger, I thought, I can do this cheaper. But yeah, you learn that doesn't work very quickly. Another connector that doesn't want to go. Grey game. Friend bought an iPhone 6 for $50 and the owner said it won't power on. Supposedly no liquid damage or dropped. We'll see what he got tomorrow. That'll be interesting. At least, you blah blah, I cannot read right now. Well, you are at least close to a source of parts over there. Yeah, China, yeah. I think that's one thing that infuriates me with the AMScope situation, is that I know those scopes coming from China. And yeah, I mean, I could order from China, but I am a little worried about, I'm a little worried about the quality that I'll get. I don't doubt that they're from the same factory, but I have a strong suspicion uh, they are quality binned, and the ones that you get cheaper at China probably have their tolerance on the optics is probably worse than, say, the AMScope ones. That's my theory. I'll be very disappointed if it ends up that the AMScope ones are just as bad. Yeah, it may not be a significant variation, but I suspect it probably should be enough. Yeah, it might be just something that slight aberration and gives you a bit more eye strain at the end of the day. What is going on here? The screw does not want to go in. Now it does. Some sort of cross thread going on there. Okay. A few months ago I wouldn't touch the 6S for screen replacements because it cost me more than what it would for me to tell the person to just take it to Apple. But then finally the prices started coming down, thank goodness. What I do find interesting is the iPhone 7 is pretty much just as cheap, and yet it's obviously been out a lot less time than the 6S. That's it, I haven't touched the 7s yet. Okay, we've got an Apple logo. Good start. Fan spin. Okay, I've got to stop doing that. Sometimes I get a bad habit when I put in these pentalobes. I spin the driver and it just starts chewing out the tip, like rounding off the tip edges. I've got to stop doing that. The doorbell ring was actually... The doorbell ring was a person coming to pick up this thing. So, yeah, they got the data recovery and all that. The phone basically is dead. There's a bit of a funny story behind that one though, because I kept messaging them to say, come pick up your stuff, just reminding them, not, they don't owe me any money, they already paid in advance. And then they get here, and I go, yeah, I'll go get your stuff, and then I can't find it anywhere. And I'm like looking around, and it just drove me insane. I was like, I thought maybe I'd given it back to him earlier because it was a data recovery, and the only thing we had to do still was the contacts transfer, which is something that I do through the web. For those of you who've seen, well, haven't seen my other stuff, uh, if you convert the iPhone address book into a vCard file, and then you upload that vCard file to a website, and then you get the person who owns the phone to go to the website, look at, download that vCard file, then the iPhone will recognize it as an address book file and offer to import it into their contacts. So it's a very easy way for people to move their contacts into a new phone. You just put the vCard file on a website, get them to download it, and boom, they've got their contacts. So I thought maybe that's what we had yet to do. But then they're like, no, well, we don't have the phone. We don't even have the USB stick that it came on, that we gave you. And I was like, oh, what's going on? So I'm running around. I couldn't find it. I'm checking all my job boxes and nothing there. I was starting to get the anxiety running a bit. But in the end, I found it. And what had happened is I'd ran out of my normal job boxes, the ones that I put people's stuff into when I'm working on it. And so I used one of my internal parts boxes, which is one of these things, or I should say one of these sort of things. And when I'd been cleaning up, I'd just put it back into a stack of other phone pieces type things. And so that's why I couldn't find it. So I went through, fortunately I found it, so everybody's happy now. I'm just a bit frustrated over the waste of time and giving the customer a bit of a runaround. So I did buy a bunch more of the proper job boxes, but it was the day or two after that I ran out, obviously. Alright, that there. I'm just going to mark this as a working test screen. That'll do. Can't spell. Oh man. I wish the Mac would, with its, let me see. Because I'm running on a MacBook, it doesn't tell me the date on the screen. Now it's the 21st, but I wish it would actually display it on screen. It just gives me the time and the day of week. Cancel. Nah, I'll worry about it later. Oh well. Okay, so that's good. I do have a few other success screens around, but it's nice to have a genuine, known working one to fiddle with. That's good. Alright. So let's see, this one's fine. I didn't put a job code on that. That was bad of me. This one can go into archive until I've got the microscope. And that's it. Wait, a couple of screws there. Maybe I will just put this down. I don't usually like reconnecting the battery onto a phone that I do not know how long it's going to be out of action. In fact, I'm going to pull the battery out of this one. Because it's had liquid damage, I don't want it to give me the good old error 26, 27, whatever it is. Crap. Means I'm going to waste more time here now. Sorry folks, going around in circles today. Half expecting that doorbell to ring any minute too. Tell you what's frustrating is when you get a hell of a lot of income for the week, and then all of a sudden you get to the end of the week and somehow you end up still not enough to cover your bills. It should have been enough to cover my bills, but I was a good person and paid out some other invoices for local suppliers. And so when I woke up this morning, I had one message saying, insufficient funds. I was like, damn it. Fortunately around here, you get, I think it's 3 or 4, it'll retry 3 or 4 times before it will penalise you if you don't have sufficient funds in your bank account. Okay. I hope these are original Apple pull strips. Please be original Apple. Ah, you are not. Where are you? Nope, you're not. You're not original. Oh well. I'm just going to say screw it. I'm going to put it into its own little box. Because I'm lazy. Oh yeah, Amy. Go into preferences for time and date. Tick the box to show the date on the clock tab. Well, it's showing up there now. Oh, right, the date. Let me see. I'll go back into it. Open date time preferences. This is the other reason why I'm happy about having this Mac, because it gives me a chance to skill up on these things. Oh, where are my preferences? Time of date. Clock. Ah, right, clock. Use 24-hour day. Show date. Aha. Marvelous. Excellent. That's what I wanted. Thank you, Robert. G'day, Mr. Schwaggins. No arrivals yet, by the way, Mr. Schwaggins. But that is the nature of postage in Australia. You can get all the way from the other side of the world to one of our bays, customs import areas in about 2 days, maybe 3, and then it takes a week or 2 just to slowly crawl its way up to here. Pardon me. I think I'm pretty much done. I'm going to have to go do some other administration work, and I need to go work on the iPhone battery thing, and I'm doing some more open board view stuff thanks to Pianov. Some of you may have seen Pianov on chat with Lewis and here occasionally. Basically, Pianov is the sort of acts like the administrator type guy for open board view, and he stops me doing too much bad stuff. I rely on him a lot for handling all the Git management. Hey Nate, without him, Open Board View basically would not be a cross-platform working system. It would just be some piece of trash running on Linux only, thanks to me. So yeah, so he handles all that. He adds in some really nice features, like he put in the autocorrect for Lewis Rossman a couple of videos ago. Yeah, when you type in the wrong thing, then his feature will suggest the correct alternatives, or possible alternatives rather. So I've got to add a few more features to Open Board View. I'm still working on the fault is here type thing. Obviously it's never going to really happen, but I should drop in a few Easter eggs in there one day. Let's see. What's the other thing I'm going to do? Something I keep forgetting. There's a particular feature I keep meaning to add, and I forget about it every time. And I've got a Git branch for it, and I don't remember until I go back and look at that Git branch. Oh well. If I order something in the UK, it takes a week to arrive in the Netherlands. Yeah, that's a bit of a joke. Yeah, but that's basically what it's like up here. I'll see it land in Brisbane or Sydney, and yeah, just sort of just goes into the void somewhere. The tracking system used to show you what distribution location it was in, as it worked its way out. Now they just simply say in transit. They've taken away all the useful information. Noticed on OBView, when using Find, Enter works, but numpad Enter doesn't. Okay, yeah, I think that'll just be a key binding thing. I just added in to look for that as well. Will I stream the programming changes again? I'm not sure. The hard thing I find with streaming programming is that it does make it very difficult to do coding at the moment. It's an exercise thing for the brain. I think I just need to do it a lot more. Certainly I get a lot more bugs and I lose track of things a lot more. But I suspect that if I pay less attention to the people watching, I can chat, then it'll probably be easier to do. It's just that there's going to be bigger gaps between when I take a dive into the code and when I come back up to surface. Nate, you may as well ask and see. There might be a few people in here. If Chris Long was here, it would be good. There are probably others, but I'm not sure of everybody else. But I'll let you know, Mr. Schwaggins, once it arrives. I'll send you a message on the YouTube, and it'll be interesting to see what's heading this way. Maybe it'll all arrive just at the same time that the microscope arrives. Let's hope it's a bit sooner than that, though. Yeah, got to get in the zone when programming, particularly with something like Open Board View now. It's getting to the point where it could do to be refactored, but it's always a bit of a conundrum with refactoring. On the one hand, it's nice to make it all clean, drop out the duplicate functions, get everything realigned again. On the other hand, you introduce so many new bugs most of the time, whether you think you're going to or not. It almost always happens. So I'd rather sort of see it stable for a bit longer, add in the couple of extra little features that I wanted. The main thing right now that we really want is to be able to decode the PCB binary format. And I mean, I'm even willing to put money on the table for someone to bring up the file format for me, as in say, look, here's the spec. There you go. Yeah, I'm willing to put money on the table for someone to give me the spec. Reasonable. Yeah, obviously I can't put 10,000 down or anything like that. When I code for Linux, my server, it's like a time warp. Yep. Can you check the DMs on Twitter late? Oh, okay. Yep, I will do. I admit I haven't been checking them lately. I've just been a bit out of it, so I'll do that. And the DD Rescue videos, yes, I did do one. I think it was an hour and a half long, and I tossed it. It just didn't work out right. I've got to go through my pile of drives, about 400 drives. There's got to be a suitable candidate in there for the first video. I'm going to do multiple videos, each one for a different style of drive misbehavior and what you can do. Samsung S7 regular screen, digital under 200. Yeah, good luck with that. You probably might be better off going to a second-hand shop and trying to find one. Yeah. Well, Douglas, when I'm finished here, I'll go and check on my DMs for you. Any idea when the newer builds might be valid for those of us use Macs? Well, we do have, every time we do an update in our on the OBV, it does get rebuilt by the Travis system on Git. Or Travis is separate from Git, but anyway, it's integrated. The problem we have is that because on GitHub, OBV is an organization, and when we push the final changes into the master, then the build occurs, but we can't have it automatically do the releases of the binary files. We have to actually do it from one of our own personal forks and then push in. So I don't know why GitHub and Travis can't seem to do an automatic release of the binaries, or as a release. There's some security issue with the keys. The keys work perfectly on the personal accounts, but as soon as you try to make them work in the organizational account, it just refuses. It just crashes out every time. So we have to manually move them across. So what I can suggest there perhaps is the fork that I run would tend to be the new feature forks most of the time, though the P&Ov's fork often has too. I will release the binaries there, and then from there I'll push them up to the OBV master. But yeah, anyway. I've got a Mac now here, so I will be doing a lot more OBV testing on this Mac, so that's a good thing. It's going to be my first Samsung repair, and I don't really feel like buying a second screen at 180 if I break it. Yeah, I won't touch the S7s or anything like that. Once after the S4, when they hit the S5 and they started to turn the whole format of it backwards, that you had to get the screen off first, I just walked away from Samsung. And the fact that most of the time, okay, I shouldn't say most of the time, about 30% of the time when I do a screen replacement for a Samsung, even with a proper fully frame include and everything, one where you're just basically putting the circuit board back onto it. That's it. You're not doing anything fancy. You're just putting the circuit board back on, and then a couple of weeks later, the screen cracks just sitting on someone's shelf. So I lost a lot of money that way, and I just walked away from it. Someone else can take that risk. I'm not going near Samsungs anymore. i6 Plus, rebooting, replace TriStar and Tigris. Now it boots, gets hot, then reboots. When I connect the battery, caps are short by TriStar. No battery, no short. Connect back. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, I think, Nate, you probably need to talk to someone like Chris or Jess or someone like that. Alright, okay, well, I'm out of here. Thank you everyone for popping in. I know it was a bit of an odd hour. I know it wasn't a very interesting changeover and all that, but I thought it's been a couple of days since I've done a stream, and yeah, just trying to catch up, killing time until this microscope arrives one day. It's been a long wait. It's been 2 months. It seems like forever. The other thing is, a few of you have been wondering what happened to all the items under the YouTube in the description. They've all gone. What I've done is I've moved all the product items and whatnot into a separate page that's now on my website. So if you click on it, it will take you to my website, which has then got a page full of all the Amazon items, and not just Amazon, it's other stuff as well. As I say, I did have it looking all pretty with nice pictures and everything like that, but I was worried about colliding with Amazon's terms and conditions for certain things. So I went back to just simply a plain text listing. I'll try and add some more details to it, like a bit more of a talk about, or a write-up about each product and why it's been selected and things like that. So yeah, it's no longer in the description for the videos. It's instead on the link in the description, if you know what I mean. I should see my package tomorrow. Nope, I won't. That'll be either Monday or Tuesday in that case, because it's Friday here. We don't have Saturday delivery because we're a backward hick town. Australia in general does not have a Saturday delivery, except maybe in the major centres. And often we don't get anything on Monday either, because we are a satellite distribution town. As such, it has to be prepared for distribution to this town by the main town, Townsville, where the Powerpuff Girls live. And they stop work on Friday afternoon, and they don't really do the sorting again until Monday evening. So we don't get it until Tuesday a lot of the time, which is a real pain. So your overnight type stuff, if you do it, or one day delivery stuff, if you do it after a Wednesday, it usually won't turn up until Tuesday. It's ridiculous. Yep. All right. Okay. I'm out of here. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care.